Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. I am Leanne, and my name is Leanne, and I'm a part of the numerologist team. And I am so excited to be here with Kelli Fox today. She is an incredible astrologer. You can go to astrology.tv to get connected with Kelli and learn more about her. Also, Kelli Fox Astro, that's her social media hashtag. But today, Kelli and I are talking about something that I'm personally very interested in because this trickster planet has had its way with me and with many people that I know many a times. So Mercury retrograde. I am sure, even if you don't know exactly what the heck Mercury retrograde is, and what this exactly means, I'm sure you've heard about Mercury retrograde. And so I'm really excited to be here today with Kelli because she's going to talk to us about what Mercury retrograde is. Mercury retrograde is moving into Cancer. So as you know, as we work our way through the year, we have Mercury retrograde happens many times, but it happens in different signs. And so we have Mercury retrograde in Cancer, and Kelli is going to be talking about what this means for each of your sun signs. So hello, I see Erin. Hello again. We have some regulars joining us. Thank you for being here. If you know anybody who would be interested in this, make sure that you tag them in the comments. You can share. So let's spread the word because we all need to be as prepared as possible for Mercury retrograde. And with that, Kelli, I'm going to, hi, welcome. I talked a lot there, but it's great to have you here.
Hi, Leanne. Thanks for having me on. And I just want to say to everyone that we're getting in first with Mercury retrograde. Now, it's technically not happening until June. And I'm just looking in my ephemeris here as you were talking. And so it's not happening till June. But the reason we're talking about it today is because Mercury, planet of the mind and communication, this week moves into Cancer, and that's the 28th. Mm-hmm. I don't even know what the date is today. It's the 28th, so today that's happening. So today, Mercury, planet of the mind and communication and speech and thought, any way that we communicate, moves into the sign of Cancer, the crab. And so why we keep talking about Mercury retrograde is because this is going to be an extra long Mercury cycle because it does turn retrograde in June. And the date on that is the 18th or the 17th of June, depending on where you are in the world. Mercury will turn retrograde. So it's always, a big deal because what it means is communication will go backwards, or there'll be misunderstandings or things that are not clear. And the double reason, there's like a triple, quadruple reason why this is such a big deal this time. Mercury does go retrograde 3 times a year, sometimes four times a year for about 3 weeks each time. And you've also got not just that 3-week period when Mercury's retrograde, but you've got the shadow of Mercury retrograde, which means the week before and the week after, we can still sort of count as a Mercury retrograde. So it just goes on and on and on. And if anybody's ever been caught up in a Mercury retrograde period, let us know, because I've been caught up with so many, and you'd think that because I know I should not be caught up in those sort of cycles, but it does happen to the best of us. Now, the reason why this one is such a big deal, actually, there's lots of reasons. It's turning retrograde in Cancer. So today, Mercury moves into Cancer. And so what that means is that our hearts and minds should be aligned, but they're not necessarily. So we're going to be communicating through our emotions. So this is an important time period over the next few weeks to not try and logically work something out or intellectualize. This is a time when we can listen to information and we process it through our bodies. It's sort of like, feel before you speak. That term, like think before you speak? Well, this is like feel before you speak. How does it feel with what the other person is saying to you, or what you're reading, or what the communication is? It's really important that We just take the time and we take a step back, because Mercury and Cancer don't like each other. They have completely different functions in astrology. Mercury is all about the intellect, whereas Cancer is all about the heart and emotions and feelings. So anytime you get a planet and a sign that come together that don't really get on, there's always a bit of conflict. And so if you are a cardinal sign, and that's Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn, or have any planets in those signs, this Mercury retrograde period will be affecting you more so. And, Leanne, I'm going to talk about how this Mercury cycle will affect all of the zodiac signs a bit later, but I just want to keep talking about the reasons why we need to be aware of what's coming with this Mercury cycle, and then Mercury retrograde June 17th or 18th, or I should say 17th and 18th, depending on where you are. So the reason why it's a big deal is because, first of all, Mercury and Cancer don't really get on together, and second of all, June is a really giant month. So as if we haven't had a giant, intense, challenging year, June really is a turning point in the year of 2020. And tomorrow, I know we're doing another live event tomorrow, 12 Pacific. And so I'm going to be talking all about June. So everyone should tune in then, because it really is such a giant month. So what's happening in June, and I'm only going to skim the surface today, is, we've got love planet Venus is retrograde right now. So that's a really big deal. And it's a big deal because with Mercury and Venus being retrograde, the two inner planets, it's unusual to have those two inner planets retrograde at the same time. So what that means is, when it comes to relationships, we really need to be careful with our communication during this period. So what that means is that we have to take care with those that we're closest to, so they're really understanding what we're saying, and vice versa. So whatever is being said to us, what's going to be really important for everybody, regardless of the sign, is that maybe repeat back to what you think you've heard, or have the other person repeat back, and don't sort of shoot from the hip, because Mercury in Cancer can sometimes jump to conclusions when emotions are involved. We're feeling it, but we're not really hearing what's being said to us.
I love that. That's so powerful. And I'm taking little notes. I'm going to put some notes up as you're talking on the bottom here, but I absolutely love the reminder. Don't jump to conclusions. And especially with Cancer, and there's more emotions, and then Mercury, there's so many trends lately that's going on with communicating. And so I do think for everyone tuning in, no matter what your sign is, no matter where you live in the world, paying more attention to your communication, and specifically with the people close in your life and the people who you care about. It's always a win-win, but it sounds like now when you tune into this, you're going to get more bang for your buck.
Yes. But the thing is, yes. And the thing is, with astrology, there's a shadow side, and so there's pros and cons. So there's not good and bad. I try really not to use that terminology, but it just is really. So the good stuff with Mercury in Cancer is very much about, it's a great time to think, not when it turns retrograde, obviously, because we're not supposed to do anything when any planet turns retrograde. I'm exaggerating, of course, but it's like, when Mercury is in Cancer, it's actually a good time for financial decisions, but not this time. After Mercury turns direct, that would be a time for financial decisions. And I'm just looking in my book here just to give you a date. Mercury will turn direct July 12th. So anytime after July 12th, so the second half of July is a very good time to make financial decisions. I have to sneeze, Leanne. I have to sneeze, and it's stuck in my nose. And I can't get it out. And this is like a Mercury retrograde thing, right? And it's not even retrograde.
See, trickster, where you're in the shadow leading up to it. Well, you need to just mute yourself.
I can't. It's not coming out.
I had the my instinct was to try to scare you, like scaring the hiccups out. But I know that's not quite the right thing. But Mercury, so just for everyone joining us, we're talking about Mercury, and Mercury moves into Cancer today. And then we have Mercury Retrograde happening on June 17th or 18th, depending on where you live in the world. And then it goes direct again on July 12th. So
I'm glad you were listening, because I was distracted with this sneeze that won't come out of my nose.
I was giving you a chance to sneeze.
I can't now. It's sort of lost. But I will mute, absolutely. Okay. So I've lost my train of thought. So Mercury in Cancer, it's happening today. It's an extra long cycle because it's turning retrograde June 17th, 18th. And then it will be in Cancer all the way through August. And this is a really big deal because, anytime an inner planet, and that's Mercury, Venus, Mars, turns retrograde, it's a really big deal because it affects us more personally than the outer planets, which are retrograde nearly half the time anyway. So Mercury will be in Cancer all the way through August 4th. And so the second half of July is a much better time period for making any sort of financial decisions, because Cancer, it's a water sign and it's a cardinal sign. So the energy of this Mercury cycle is around initiation. But the disclaimer on that is we're moving into a retrograde cycle. So it really isn't a good time to initiate or start anything new, particularly around finances, but also around anything to do with the home or family. So if you're thinking about moving, and I know it's sort of a challenging time to be moving, but strangely, I've been hearing of quite a few people at this time who are moving. So if you're thinking about moving, just, dot all the I's, cross all the T's. Don't just sort of like dive into something. Be sure to definitely fact check and have someone else sort of look over your shoulder if you're doing anything. And of course, the classic for a Mercury retrograde period, as we're moving into, is don't sign any contracts. Now, I know that's really tough, because we can't just stop life as we have done the past few months. But it's like, normally we can't just sort of stop things and say, I'm waiting till Mercury turns direct before I sign this contract. Yes, I have done that, but I can get away with that because I'm an astrologer and people sort of half expect it from you. But this is not really a good time for signing contracts. Wait, if you possibly can, until the second half of July onwards. Now, the other reasons why it's a challenging time, not just because of this Mercury retrograde period, but because, love planet Venus is also retrograde. So we can expect relationships either coming back from the past or issues from past relationships or current relationships that we're dealing with now in the present time. And also, with Venus being in Gemini, Gemini is a sign of communication. So here we want to communicate, we want to get these issues out on the table, but the hold up is this Mercury in Cancer that's going to be slowing things down because emotions will be getting in the way. So that's really the kicker here is, with these emotions getting in the way, if we want to make a decision hastily or we're in a rush to do something, this will slow things down. Mercury in Cancer will definitely slow things down, and especially with this retrograde period. Now, the other thing that's coming up is we're moving into eclipse season, and tomorrow, I cannot wait to talk about that, because eclipses, according to astrologers, are really big deals. So what that means is that they're times of intensity and change and transition. And so tomorrow I'm just going to be going through what the eclipse season means for every sign of the zodiac. So tomorrow, be sure to tune in because I will cover that in a lot more detail. Today, it's all about Mercury. And Mercury, the Mercury cycle, the Mercury retrograde cycle coming up. And of course, it has to happen in June when everything else is going on in June. Not just eclipses, but, love planet Venus is retrograde. And then, of course, Neptune will be turning retrograde at the end of the month. And then Saturn will be retrograding back into Capricorn. Now, that's really big news too. All those things I will cover tomorrow. Today, it's just a focus on Mercury.
So I have a question for
yes.
you. so much going on. Like you said, we have Venus in retrograde, and there's communications and lovers and relationships from the past, and then Mercury in Cancer, and almost the opposition between emotions and being stuffed down, and then the retrogrades. We've got a lot of stuff going on. So when you said, like, don't sign, if possible, don't sign any contracts until July 12th, and don't, I guess what's my question? My question is, Mercury retrograde is going to happen. Do you have any suggestions or advice for people on how to navigate Mercury retrograde? Let's say, what if you do need to sign a contract, or what if you do need to move? What are some tools or some things that people can do to really arm themselves with, it's like, I guess I see them like arming themselves with the tools so that they can move forward if they need to, but in a mindful way that's not going to completely set Mercury off.
Absolutely. Great question. And thank you, because I don't want to just be the voice of doom and gloom. I want to also give helpful advice. So thank you, Leanne. And so the best way to navigate Mercury retrograde is to review or redo. So anytime, because, the retrograde starts with RE. So the rule is anything that starts with RE is a great use of a retrograde energy. And for Mercury retrograde, it's like we might be dealing with things from the past. So that's what retrogrades are about. It's not just past this lifetime, but prior lifetimes. So pay attention to dreams as well, because remember, Mercury is planet of the mind. And so that involves dreams. So our nighttime mind is when we dream. So a lot of us will have vivid dreams, especially if you're a water sign, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, or planets in the water signs. So it's a good use. The Mercury moving into Cancer now and then moving into the retrograde period, it's a great use of redoing something from the past. And the other thing is with contracts, the way I've personally navigated those in the past is re-signing something. So if you need to add an addendum to a current contract, that's the best way to do it. And also just know you can have, letter of intent or an intent for a contract. That's another way around signing a contract. Of course, if you're buying a house or something like that, that's a whole different matter. And I have heard of, I'm just thinking of someone recently I gave a reading for. She had signed her business lease during a Mercury retrograde. And so her feedback to me on that was every time there's a Mercury retrograde, there's always something that comes up with the business that needs to be dealt with. Not in a bad way. It's just know that sometimes we can't avoid certain things, no matter how much we'd like to hibernate or go into our shell, because, the sign of Cancer is a crab. And so, we might find with this Mercury retrograde, or just even Mercury in Cancer, that we're retreating into our shell if we don't like what we're hearing or we don't like the communication that's coming to us. That's totally fine. I think actually in most ways it's better than confrontation. So this is not a time to sort of have intellectual debates. This is more about self-preservation and self-protection. So if something, and here's the other thing, if something doesn't feel right, and this is a golden rule, but especially now with all these eclipses and Mercury moving into Cancer and the retrograde periods of Venus and Mercury, it's like if something doesn't feel right, trust your instincts. And that's really the golden rule of this energy of Mercury in Cancer. If something doesn't feel right, you don't have to do it. I mean, it's really as simple as that. As I said, Cancer is a cardinal sign. Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn are the cardinal signs of the zodiac. They're the instigators or the initiators. And so Cancer being very instinctive water sign, it's very much about trust your instincts at this time. If something is being said to you that doesn't sound right, trust your instincts and you don't have to take action. I mean, of course, mostly.
And then on the flip side, will this be a time, let's say it's almost like our antennas or spidey senses are going to be heightened. So we're like, warning, red flags. I know there's been so many red flags over the years that I have not paid attention to, or else it's like, maybe they're kind of orange. But then on the flip side, what if there's something that's like, yes, this is aligned, this feels great? Is that also something that will come up during this time period as well? Everything's just more intensified.
Yes, because of, eclipse season. So eclipse season in June, it's like major turning points for all of us, just in varying degrees depending on our sign and our astrology chart. But it's like this is a season, not just eclipse season, but with the Mercury retrograde, it's like get ready for change. I mean, can you believe that there could be more change this year? I know, right? But, January, June, and December are the months of 2020 that we can expect really big changes and metamorphosis and, transformation and turning points. Now, Leanne, I want to run through really quick what each zodiac sign can expect during this Mercury in Cancer cycle, and of course the retrograde in mid-June. So if you're in Aries, for Aries, it's all about hearing from a family member. So be prepared for somebody who you're related to, or somebody that's part of your family you might not have heard from in a long time, or something's been unsaid. So there could be some tension around home and family with this Mercury retrograde period if you're in Aries. Now, Aries can be a little bit hot-headed sometimes. So this is a time to sort of not dive into a response or a communication. Take 3 deep breaths, take a step back, and, try and have the golden rule of sleep on it before responding, I think is, the best way of doing it. If you're a Taurus the bull, so how this Mercury retrograde cycle is affecting you is about communication. So this is a really big deal because this retrograde period for Taurus will be affecting you more so. And so Taurus, you like to think things through and you appreciate the process of something, but try not to overthink during this time period and try not to get too stuck in a certain way of thinking about a situation or a certain way of responding. Try something different, and the eclipses will give you that boost that you need to sort of step out of your comfort zone for that. If you're a Gemini, well, Mercury is your ruling planet. So anytime that Mercury, your ruling planet, turns retrograde, you will feel it more so. And it might be a little bit difficult for Gemini because this Mercury period is in Cancer. And so those two, Gemini is very quick and intellectual, very, very quick. And so, this slows down the thinking processes more so. So there might be a slower pace of decision making and where, you just want to jump into something, quicker than usual. This might not be a time for that. If you're a Cancer the crab, so Mercury is turning retrograde in your sign. So what that means is that, over the next few weeks, all the way through mid-July, you might be called upon to explain yourself in some way, or which might be difficult because sometimes if you're put on the spot or you're in the spotlight and you know in your gut, or the sense, or you have the feeling of something, but being called upon to articulate in an eloquent way might be a little bit challenging. So just remember what I said before. It's like you don't have to rush into anything unless there's some sort of set deadline. It's like just know you can call your own pace on this. It's going to be very important to do that. If you're a Leo, so what's important for you during this Mercury cycle is to pay attention to your dreams, because as I said before, dreams, it's all around the mind. Mercury is planet of the mind. So it's important that you really pay attention to your dreams and really see the messages that they're giving. I know sometimes dreams can be sort of a little bit, well, what did that mean? And if you've got to listen to someone else's dream, it's sort of like, what is this ramble? But really sit with it. And what's important is, how do you feel about the dream? It's not just the interpretation of the dream, but your feelings around that dream will be really, really important. If you are a Virgo, so what's happening for you during this Mercury retrograde period, you might be getting communication from friends, there might be a bit of conflict there, or there might be some misunderstanding, or you might even hear from a friend from the past, considering that Venus is also retrograde. So there's sort of like a double emphasis there for Virgo on friendships from the past. So be very careful, Virgo, on social networks, because this Mercury retrograde, or this Mercury in Cancer period, is triggering the groups that you are part of. So be very careful with any sort of communication you're putting out there on social media, and really think through something. Don't just sort of, shoot from the hip in this case. Now, if you're a Libra during this very long Mercury cycle, it's all about career and community standing, and what are your long-term aspirations around your career? What is your career path? What is it that you want to do when you grow up? And that's for anybody at any age, but it's sort of like, think through those things, and also be very careful with communication with colleagues or with your boss. Now, that's going to be really, really crucial for Libra at this time. As I said, smooth sailing mid-July on. It's just we're called upon during this time with all these other planetary influences. Now, if you're a Scorpio, this is a really interesting time for you, because this is definitely a time to trust your instincts. You're a water sign, as is Cancer. So this is a time when, you're really tuning into something much higher or much bigger or much broader, and stepping outside of your comfort zone is going to be really important for Scorpio. And be very, very open-minded to other people's philosophies or ideals, particularly from far away or foreign places. That might help you solve some sort of puzzle or mystery that's been going on in your life. If you're a Sagittarius, so for you, this is all about, and this month, meaning June, because the lunar eclipse next week is in Sagittarius. So this is a really big time for Sagittarius, and very much about transition and transformation. I mean, we're all going through it, but some of us more than others. And so for you, Sagittarius, it's very much about breaking a bad habit or letting something go that's no longer working for you. And that's going to be difficult for some of you, because, we're in our comfort zone. We don't want to let go of things that, we're holding on to, but they might no longer be serving us. So that's going to be really key here for Sagittarius, is to let go of things that don't work anymore. And if you're a Capricorn, for you, the focus is going to be on your closest relationships, your romantic relationships, your partnerships, business partnerships, whatever that is. The focus for you, Capricorn, is being very careful not to be misunderstood, with those closest to you. It's like, it's going to be very important that you I'm not saying explain yourself, but make sure the other person is hearing you correctly, or that they're getting the message as you intended. So that's what's on the table there for Capricorn. And then for Aquarius, it's going to be all about daily routine and, your job. It's going to be important that your colleagues understand, what's being said, or what they're saying to you. And also, it's important that you take care of yourself. It's like, if there's something in your life that is no longer serving you, it's a good time to let that go. And I'm not just saying that just because of the Mercury retrograde cycle, but also because, this is a transition time in our year 2020. And then finally, for Pisces, what's going to be important for you is not taking too much of a risk. Get all the facts straight and lined up, because things might not be as they seem. Now, Pisces, you are a psychic sign, most definitely, but this is not a time to sort of, I always say go with your gut and listen to your instincts, but always back that up with facts and figures. This is not a time to sort of be spontaneous and just dive into something and go with the wind. It's very much about, it's okay to do the research. It's okay to have things lined up. just be patient. Be patient. Wait until at least mid-July before, taking that next step into the risk that you want to take. So this is not a time for any sort of risk taking, even if it's a calculated risk. It's a time for just keep doing the research and getting the information you need before making those big steps.
All right. Wow. That was so helpful. Thank you so much, Kelli. And I was looking, I'm like, okay, so Mercury goes retrograde on June 17th or 18th, and we are really prepping. We are getting ahead of it.
Yes, we are. There's nothing like prior planning and preparation.
It's so true. It's like all of a sudden it's like weird things start to happen, and then somebody asks, is Mercury retrograde? And it turns out it is. But this time we are ahead of it. And I am so excited because tomorrow we're going to be back here tomorrow at the same time. And as you can tell from what Kelli shared today, there's a ton of stuff going on in June. And so we're going to be sharing that. And then I know that throughout too, I always read the comments as we're going, and there's been some people asking, where can I find my sun sign and where can I find more information? So we have a little fancy banner here. I'm upping my tech skills, but you can get your free personalized astrology video report from Kelli at video.astrology.tv. This is an absolutely incredible, I call it an overall experience. This is an incredible experience. It is so much more than the typical astrology reading that you'll get in a newspaper or in the back of, in the little magazines where you'll get a sentence or two. Go check this out. You will be absolutely amazed, and let us know what you think about it. But Kelli, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing all of your insights and wisdom. I know the how do I say it?
Ephemeris.
Ephemeris. I will get it. Ephemeris. Honestly, I think that I'm going to have to get an ephemeris one of these days, or not, because you and I do these calls now for everyone and you share the information in there. But just thank you. Thanks for tuning in, everybody who's joined us, and let us know one thing that you're going to do to prepare for Mercury retrograde. So share in the comments below. Again, go check out the free, it's absolutely free. That's the other incredible thing about this report, and it's a video, and I just can't say enough incredible things about it. So thank you for creating that for all of us, Kelli, because it's unlike anything I've ever seen.
Thank you. I know, it's mind-blowing. It is absolutely incredible. So video.astrology.tv, absolutely. Looking forward to talking to you again tomorrow, Leanne. Thank you so much.
Likewise, and thanks everyone, and definitely tag other people. Again, share this, tag people who will find this information valuable, and let's just keep spreading the word, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Have a good one.